Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Sayyid Akif Shah, lecturer finance at Institute of Business Studies, Kohart University of Science and Technology. The title of this course is Business Research Methods, and the course code for this subject is MS 312. This is lecture number 22nd, and the topic for today's discussion is elements of research design, under which specifically we shall discuss the unit of analysis for research design. This is a complete research diagram process which starts from broad problem area, getting the preliminary data, defining the problem narrowly, making a critical literature review, then fifth step, making the theoretical framework, generating the testable statement hypothesis, variable have been identified. Now we are on step number 7, which is pertinent to the research design. In my previous lecture, I have explained in detail the first two elements of a research design, which were the type of investigation and the purpose of study. In the purpose of study, we have explained the three different types of research studies. It could be exploratory, it could be a descriptive study, and as well as hypothesis testing. Then we have studied the causal study and as well as the correlational study, which is the type of investigation has been discussed. In today's lecture, our emphasis will be on the unit of analysis for a particular research work. So the outline of this lecture consists of the discussion related with unit of analysis as a research design element, third element, and then we shall also discuss the examples relevant to different units of analysis, or we can say the pertaining to different unit of analysis. Now, my first unit of analysis, let's define what is the unit of analysis for a particular study. The unit of analysis refers to the level of aggregation of data collected during the subsequent data analysis. Like before doing the data analysis and after the clarification of the relevant dependent and independent variables with the help of published literature, and as well as the researcher might have identified with the help of interviews and observation. And after making the relevant nexus and relationship with amongst the variable in the theoretical framework, since the theoretical framework and the conceptual model have clearly identified the pertinent or relevant variable with the problem under study, so the next step for the researcher is to design the research model or the unit of analysis, which is part of the element of the research design. And as we know that variables are now cleared to the researcher, therefore the unit of analysis requires the attention of the researcher to be cleared. And what is unit of analysis? We shall discuss shortly that what kind of different unit of analysis are there on which the researcher is interested to collect or aggregate the data, and then in the next phase or next step we'll have to apply the statistical model or statistical packages for data analysis related to the study's nature. Either it is exploratory, hypothesis testing, or an exploratory study. There are certain units of analysis depending upon the broad problem or clarified problem area. It could be individual based, it might be Dyads, it could be group based unit, division, industry, or pertinent to the countries. We shall discuss one by one these different unit of analysis related with our study. Number first is the unit of analysis for individual. If the researcher focuses on how to raise motivational levels of the employees, then the researcher is interested in the individual employees in the organization. We have taken an example of a research project for a researcher or a research broad problem area in which the researcher is interested is to increase the level of motivation of the employees. Now, in order to increase the level of motivation of the employees, the researcher has to conduct certain interviews. It might be structured or unstructured interview with the individuals working in that organization, and their responses shall be collected and aggregated for data analysis. Now, as the researcher will have to interact with the individual on one-on-one basis, and then to collect the specific responses provided by the individual working in the organization. Therefore, we can say that our unit of analysis is the individual responses of the personnel working in the organization. So, here the unit of analysis is individual, as the data will be gathered from each individual separately, and then it will be compiled in one Excel sheet or might be another statistical package where it shall be analyzed in the next step by the researcher. The unit of analysis for a research could be a Dyads basis. What is this all about? If the researcher is interested in studying two persons interaction, Dyad means the interaction are two bodies or two person, then the several two-person groups, also known as dyads, will become the unit of analysis. Let's explain it with the help of example. For example, if the researcher is interested to analyze the supervisor and subordinate relationship at workplace, now we can see that the researcher's focus is on the relationship between supervisor and subordinate at the workplace. So here two people or two persons are involved, and each person's or subordinate and supervisor's relationship with each other shall be discussed and noted down, and then such kind of data may be aggregated for the specific reason. We assume that the researcher is interested to find out the relationship between the supervisor and subordinate relationship and the productivity level of the organization. And the researcher assumes that if there is a good relationship or a motivated relationship between the supervisor and subordinate, it will lead towards the increase in the production level of the organization or that specific organization. So here the two people are dyad relationships between supervisor and subordinate has to be collected, and then to find out its relationship with the productivity of the specific department or overall the organization. Let's take another example. To observe the teacher and student relationship at the university and its impact on the marks obtained. So we can also have the dyad unit of analysis under this case, where the teacher and student relationship, if this relationship is healthy, friendly and open for discussion, such kind of relationship may lead toward the increase in the marks obtained by the student, or it can also increase the motivation level and the career of the student later on after graduation. So here once again the researcher is interested in the relationship of teacher and its students, and researcher hypothesized that if the relationship between student and teacher is friendly, healthy and productive, career oriented, then it will lead towards the good grades or good marks of the students, and as well as a successful career after graduation. So once again the unit of analysis over here is based on dyads, because the teacher and students two subjects relationship has been has been discussed, and the data related with the dyad have to be collected so that its relationship with the dependent variable may be observed. The third one is group as a unit of analysis. Let's take an example. If a manager wants to see in the organization the pattern of usage of newly installed MIS system, that is Management Information System, by the production department or group, by the sales department or we can say group, and as well as the operations personnel. So the manager is interested to know about the usage of newly installed information system by the production personnel group, by the sales personnel group, and the operational personnel group. So here there are three personnel are involved, which are production personnel, sales personnel, and the operation personnel, on the number of times the information system is used. Like the researcher or the manager is interested to know about how many times a particular group is using the information system by each member in each of the three groups. The researcher is interested to find out how many times, like for example, if there are 5 people in the production department, then how many times these 5 personnel may use the information system for their official work, as well as the other relevant issues will be collected and analyzed. If such kind of unit of analysis is there where we are going to study the group related or pertaining to a specific unit, it means that we are dealing with the group as a unit of analysis. Like for example, there are 5 personnel in the production, 4 in the sales, and 5 or 6 in the operation group. So we can take the data required by the manager regarding the number of times the personnel or group member are using the information system. If such kind of research activity is there and the researcher is interested to find out the data related with the specific group, it is known as group as a unit of analysis. So we can conclude that this was an example of the unit of analysis for a group. Now let's discuss the divisions as a unit of analysis. For example, if there are a conglomerate type of company, let's take an example of Procter & Gamble. A conglomerate is a kind of company which have many divisions and many product lines. So Procter & Gamble wants to see which of its various divisions, like the soap division, the paper division, or the oil products division, have made profits of over 12% during the current year. So the researcher who is looking to analyze a conglomerate named as Procter & Gamble in this example is inclined to know about the various divisions profit ratio, or what profit they have earned during the current year, and the emphasis is to find out those departments which have had earned more than 12% profit. So as a particular division is focus point for a researcher, like soap division, paper division, or an oil division, therefore the unit of analysis is over here is the division based analysis. Like soap division has earned 13% profit, whereas the paper division might have earned, let's suppose, 11%, and the oil division have earned 14% profit. So the researcher can infer that the oil division is going quite well than the rest of the divisions. Now let's take an example of industry as a unit of analysis. A researcher is interested to make an employment survey. Specialist wants to see the proportion of workforce employed by the health industry, healthcare, the transportation industry, and as well as the manufacturing industry. So the student or the researcher must be clear about the industry definition first, that the industry means the similar nature companies have to be combined at one place and it forms an industry. Like the healthcare might include the hospitals, the private clinics. It also includes the pharmaceutical companies, and as well as the surgical equipment manufacturing companies. Similarly, the transportation includes not only the road transportation, it also includes the railway industry, railway companies, and as well as the air travel companies like Emirates Airline or Qatar Airline, and as well as PIA Airline. So transportation, when we are referring towards the transportation as an industry, it has too many companies which come under the realm of transportation industry. Similarly, in the manufacturing industry, we have all those companies which are making the physical products for consumers. So the researcher has to aggregate data relating to each of the subunits comprised in each of the industries and then report the proportion of workforce employed. As the emphasis in this research by an employment service specialist is to know about what portion or what percentage of employees or people or the workforce have been employed by the different industry working in a particular economy. So when you are interested or the researcher is interested to find out the data or data pertaining to the subunits of a particular industry, such kind of unit of analysis is termed as industry as a unit of analysis. For instance, let's take one of the industry like healthcare in our previous example. The researcher is interested to take out the data or aggregate the data related with healthcare industry. So the researcher will have to include or discuss the hospitals in the healthcare industry, nursing homes, small and large clinics, which could be private clinics, and other healthcare providing facilities like manufacturing of the surgical equipment and medicines. So the researcher has to collect the data which is based on the number of or proportion of workforce employed by the industry healthcare, will have to collect data from hospital, nurses home, small and large clinics, and as well as the medicine and pharmaceutical companies, along with the surgical equipment manufacturing companies. And only then they can infer the conclusion that, let's suppose 12% of the employees have been hired or employed by the healthcare industry in a particular region, economy, or the country. So the data from these subunits will have to be aggregated, like these subunits of hospital, nursing homes, and the clinics, to see how many employees are hired or by the healthcare industry. This will need to be done for each of the other industries, like we have taken example of manufacturing companies and as well as the transportation companies. So if the point of interest for a researcher is to study the manufacturing industry, then it will have to collect the subunits data regarding the companies coming into the realm or umbrella of manufacturing industry. Similarly, if the researcher is interested to have a problem to be addressed in a transportation industry, then the researcher will have to study all the companies coming under the umbrella of transportation. So we can conclude that when such kind of research question is to be addressed, the unit of analysis is considered as industry. Finally, we can also have the countries as a unit of analysis when we are discussing the overall economy or the global economy or the global corporations. Let's take an example that the chief financial officer of a multinational corporation, a company is called as multinational corporation if it has its offices around the globe or in more than 2 or 3 countries. So the chief financial officer of a multinational corporation wants to know the profits made during the last 5 years by each of the subsidiary. Subsidiary means if for example, if a company is headquartered in USA and it has companies subsidiaries or other existence in the different countries like in England, Germany, and France, then we can say that the company's headquarter is in the USA and its subsidiaries are available in England, Germany, or France. So let's start with the narration. If the chief financial officer is interested of a multinational corporation is interested to know about the profit during the last 5 years by the subsidiaries in the England, Germany, and France, it is possible that there are many regional offices as well of these subsidiary in the other countries. So the broad area of interest of the chief financial officer is to know about the profit made by the subsidiaries in different countries of the world. Then the unit of analysis is over here as countries, because we are studying that the England subsidiary has earned, let's suppose, 12% profit, and the Germany existence of this multinational corporation subsidiary in Germany has earned 11%, and similarly in France it has earned, let's suppose, 8%. Then the chief financial officer will be more inclined towards the problem in France, because the profit earned in France is quite lower than the other two subsidiaries. So when a country level data is required by a researcher to study and address the problem, then it is known as countries as a unit of analysis. So the profit of various regional, if these subsidiaries available in England, Germany, and France, it might have regional offices or regional center inside the international countries, have to be aggregated, and the profit of each countries for the last 5 years shall be provided to the chief financial officer who is residing in USA as a multinational corporation's chief financial officer. So the data will now have to be aggregated at country level, and such kind of analysis is known as the countries as a unit of analysis. So this is all about the unit of analysis as an element of research design. It could be individual dyads, group, division, industry, or country basis, depending upon what the researcher is interested in and what type of data he or she is inclined to aggregate for the data analysis. Thank you very much for listening to this lecture. If you have any question, you are free to ask and post them on KCMS, or another way around, you can also email me on my official email address as mentioned in the footer. Good luck for the day. Allah Hafiz.